So this is going to be us for the next 4.5 weeks. We're starting today with lecture number 1, and we will finish on Monday, the 14th of July with lecture number 7. And you will notice that we are going a full 3 hours per lecture. Why? Because level 3 requires a lot more focus in specific lectures. There's a lot of calculations and there's a lot of application of the law rather than just understanding the law. Today we have learned how to apply the new boundary court law. And in the next few lectures, we will hopefully be getting the expertise of Alauddin Palika again for the explanation of other law changes. However, the Cricket South Africa Level 3 exam is still based on the old laws. The latest changes were made in 2022. So even though it says Code 17 at the top, Edition 3, which came out in 2022, is what the Cricket South Africa Level 3 exam is based on, and that is what we will present to you. I have emailed everyone who passed level 2 with us the presentation, and the presentation I've sent you is the full 42 laws. Okay. However, in the presentation that we will be going through in the next 7 lectures, we will be focusing on the most important laws when it comes to the level 3 exam. So what we will do after we've presented the 7 lectures is we will then give you that specialized level 3 presentation. But Cricket South Africa has asked us not to only give you what is in the exam, but as per school days, when you get a thick 500-page textbook, I've sent you a 42 law presentation for you to go through over the next 4.5 weeks. And then we will zoom into the calculations, which are very important in the level 3 exams when it comes to last hour, when it comes to penalty time, and when it comes to moving the times for intervals. The exam fee is 400 South African rands for those of you who are based in South Africa, and it's $40 for those of you who are not based in South Africa, and that the payment has been sent, the payment methods have been sent on the email. Anybody who has not got the course material and logistics email, please put your email into the chat box and I will be sending that through to you after this lecture. And of course, all our lectures are recorded and they will be posted on our YouTube channel at least latest 15 hours after the end of each lecture. So South African time, say about 11 a.m. the morning after each lecture. There are 2 exam date options: Saturday, the 19th of July, and it's a 3-hour paper from 9 a.m. until midday, or Monday, the 21st of July, 6 to 9 p.m. Very importantly, if you're a member of Western Province Cricket Umpires Association, you are not allowed to write online. You will have to write with us at Newlands Cricket Ground. So you choose either of those 2 days. If you are a member of any other association in South Africa, an umpires association in South Africa, then you need to contact your head of training or your training coordinator to find out when they are going to be writing level 3 exams in your province. You are not allowed to write online with us, and you are also not allowed to write at another umpires association. You need to write at your home association. For those of you in South Africa who are not members of any umpires association, you are welcome to write online with all our foreign candidates using examonline.hostexam.net. As mentioned, the Cricket South Africa Level 3 exam is a 3-hour paper and the pass mark is 80%. There are 120 marks in 27 questions, and you need to score 96 out of 120 to pass the exam. We will try and have your results to you 2 weeks after the second exam date. That will be Monday, the 4th of August. And another 2 weeks after that, we will try and have your certificates sent to you by email on Monday, the 18th of August. I am aware that a lot of you still have not received your level 2 certificates from the exam that you passed in May. Humble apologies for that continued delay. I do promise you that we are trying, we are asking. We just need to remember that Cricket South Africa employees, they don't only sit and print certificates. So it's a waiting game for you and for us. Please bear with us. Your certificates will come. I was hoping they would have come today, but they haven't yet. We will keep you updated, and hopefully in the near future, you will get your certificate emailed to you directly. Apologies once again for the delay. So what happens if you do not achieve 80%? Candidates achieving between 65% and 79% will be allowed a free rewrite. And those rewrite dates will be confirmed when we are writing the exams. So at the end of this course, we will know when our next level 3 course will be, and that's when you will be able to do your rewrites. So I mentioned that we are doing this course a little bit differently in that we need to go over content, more content than just what is examined in the exam. So today's lecture is going to be a revision of level 1, most important content. Next, on Thursday, the lecture will be a revision of level 2's most important content. And then level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 will be specific to level 3 exam. Okay, so bear with us. This is to refresh all of you and get your minds back ticking to the laws of cricket. Abdullah is going to take us through the level 1 revision for the rest of today's lecture. And after he's done, then we will take questions and answers from the floor about the content that we're presenting, as well as any exam logistics that you might want to ask. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Abdullah, and he's going to take us through a level 1 revision for the next hour or so, after which we will open the floor to questions and answers. Abdullah, good evening. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Tom, and good evening to the rest of the attendees. Just give me a second while I'm sharing my screen. So the slides I'm covering everything that was important in our level 1 course. It's also just as a a refresher of the laws that we've covered in our level 1 course. So firstly, number of players. According to the laws, The laws allow for match to be played between two sides, 11 aside, one of them to be captain. But by agreement, the law allows for a game to be played between more than 11 players. But there is a condition if you do decide to play more than 11 players in your game, and that condition is not more than 11 players may field at any time. So if you do decide to play 15 a side, no issue, the law allows for it, but only 11 players to field at any given time. In terms of the nomination and the replacement of players, captain to nominate his or her players in writing to one of the umpires before the toss, so preferably the captain, but the law allows for any person associated with the side to nominate the players, like the coach can also nominate the players. But each captain, and they need to bring this nomination sheet, and on the right hand side is an example of a nomination sheet that we use in club cricket in Cape Town, South Africa. So the umpires will hand over these seats to the captains before the toss. Captains need to complete them, and when they come to the toss, they need to bring the completed nomination sheet with them. So the captains has now nominated their side. So can a player be changed after the captain has nominated their side? Does the law allow for it? Yes, the law allows for a player to be replaced, but there is one condition, and that condition is you need the consent of the opposing captain. So if a player needs to be replaced, we then need to go to the opposing captain, ask him or her permission. If yes, then that player can be replaced. If no, unfortunately not, we then cannot replace the player. In terms of the appointment and the attendance of umpires, so preferably 2 umpires to be appointed for the game. We know it's not always possible, but at least we need to try to get 2 umpires. So at club level, we'll often find 2 umpires. We do know at international matches, there are 4 umpires, 2 on field, a TV umpire, and then a 4th umpire. Umpires needs to be at the ground according to the law at least 45 minutes before play is about to start. So if play is starting at 10 o'clock, umpires needs to be there by 9:15. There are lots of duties that the umpires needs to perform, hence the reason for them to be there at least 45 minutes before play is about to start. Does the law allow for an umpire to be changed? Yes, the law allows for it. There are instances where umpire might be injured or ill, or there could be exceptional circumstances. So the law allows for an umpire to be changed, but there is a condition. And what is the condition? The law firstly tells us the replacement umpire only to stand at the striker's end, unless both captains agree that this replacement umpire can take full responsibility as an umpire. Who are the judges of fair and unfair play? Is it the captains? Is it the coaches? Players? No, the umpires. They are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. When it comes to the fitness for play, who decides whether let's say the ground is fit to play? Again, law guides us by telling us solely for the umpires, and they together to decide whether the conditions of either ground, weather, or light mean that it would be, and the criteria that they need to use is when deciding fitness for play is dangerous or unreasonable. And again, law emphasized that solely for the two umpires together to decide whether conditions are either dangerous or unreasonable. Sometimes the grass is a bit wet. The Lord just guide us by telling us if the grass is a bit wet, this doesn't necessarily warrant conditions to be either dangerous or unreasonable. When it comes to suspension of play in dangerous or unreasonable conditions, and again, for the purpose of this course, we're focusing on the laws of cricket. And the laws of cricket tell us that if the umpires decides to suspend play, if it's dangerous or unreasonable, and if play is in progress, umpires do not have to agree. If the umpires don't agree, play needs to be suspended. An example, and again I'm emphasizing this is according to the laws of cricket. If late in the day, sun is busy setting, it's becoming dark, umpires are then looking at each other. One umpire say, I think the light is still good enough for play to continue. The other umpire feels, I think it is too dark for play to continue. So law tell us, if there's no agreement between the umpires, you need to then suspend play immediately. The position of the umpire. So where do the umpires stand? Law don't tell us exactly where the umpires needs to stand in terms of must be a meter behind the stumps or meter and a half or 2 meters behind the stumps or 10 meters at strikers in or 20 meters at strikers in. No, law just tell us umpire to stand where he or she can see best and to make a decision. So when it comes to the bowlers in, umpire then needs to stand in a position and not to fear with the bowler's run up, and also not to fear to interfere with the striker's view. When it comes to the strikers in umpire, the law wants the strikers in umpire to stand on the leg side, whether it's a right-handed batter or left-handed batter. Strikers in umpire needs to stand on the onside or on the leg side. There are times, and the law makes provision for this because the law understand that there will be times where it's not possible for the strikers in umpire to stand on the onside. Like there's a late setting sun, or there's quite a few fielders around the bat, a short leg and a leg slip, so that can block the umpire's view of the popping crease and or the stumps. So the law allows for the strikers in umpire to go stand on the offside. And if so, the strikers in umpire, then let's say it's the late setting sun, umpire then needs to go stand on the offside. The strikers in umpire then needs to inform the captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the other umpire that he or she is going to stand on the offside. When it comes to the scorers and the appointment of scorers, ideally 2 scorers to be appointed to the game, and these scorers to sit next to each other. And what do the scorers do? They need to record all runs scored, all wickets taken, and the number of overs that are bowled. So point number 2, just emphasize why it's important that the scorers needs to sit next to each other, because they need to frequently check each other's scores to make sure that their records agree. And importantly, umpires need to agree with this with the scorers, and at every interval or at the conclusion of the day's play or the match, umpires to go to the scorers to confirm that their records agree. Again, with the scorers, when it comes to acknowledging signals, scorers needs to acknowledge all signals given to them by the umpires. You will find on some balls there are more than one signal, And if there's more than one signal of one ball, scorers needs to acknowledge these signals separately. When it comes to the ball, and in particularly the new ball, so in modern cricket, the law allows that after 80 overs, fielding side has the option to take a new ball. The option is on the table. Fielding captain doesn't have to exercise the option, but after 80 overs in modern cricket, the option is there for the fielding side to choose a new ball. And if they do take it after 80 overs, umpires then to indicate to the batters and to the scorers that the new ball has now been taken. Law 5 covers the bat. So in terms of the size of the bat, we're first going to focus on the length of the bat, the overall length of the bat from the top of the bat until the bottom, not more than 96.52 centimeters. So that's the maximum length that the bat can be, 96.52. So in terms of the blade, the law guides us by telling us the blade of the bat shall not be more than, when it comes to the width, 10.8 centimeters. Also the depth, not to exceed 6.7 centimeters. And lastly, the edges, not more than 4 centimeters. So at international level, and you've seen in the IPL, they use the bat gauges to make sure that the bat complies with the laws. When it comes to the creases, there are 3 creases in the laws of cricket. Firstly, there is the popping crease, there is the bowling crease, and there are 2 return creases. Popping crease, bowling, and return creases. What are the length of these creases? When it comes to the popping crease, there's a minimum length of 3.66 meters. I prefer the metric system. That's why I'm saying 3.66. Imperial, it's 12 feet. The return creases, a minimum length of 2.44 meters. And the bowling crease, there is an exact length of 2.64 meters. When it comes to the preparation and the maintenance of the playing area after the game has started, before the game has started, the curator and his ground staff, they prepare the pitch and the outfield. But once the game has started, the law guides us in terms of what can be done to the pitch and to the outfield. So when it comes to mowing of the pitch and the outfield, both pitch and outfield to be mown on each day of the match that the match is expected to take place. So in our 5-day test match, day 1, game starts at 10 o'clock. So before the game starts, the curator and his staff, they will then prepare the pitch. But on day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5 of our test match, the law tells us pitch and outfield needs to be mown on each day. The reason for this is we need to try to at best keep the pitch and the outfield the same over the 5 days. Now, timing of this mowing. So we know the pitch and the outfield needs to be mowed. In terms of the pitch, mowing of the pitch to be completed not later than 30 minutes before the scheduled starting time or rescheduled starting time. So if our game starts at 10 o'clock, let's say day 2 starts at 10 o'clock, before 9:30, the pitch needs to be mowed. When it comes to the outfield, not later than 15 minutes before play is about to start, So let's say play starting at 10 o'clock. The mowing of the outfield needs to be done by 9:45. When it comes to rolling of the pitch, and again, this is now after the game has started. Before the game has started, the curator can roll to his or her heart's content in preparing the pitch for the game. But once the game has started, the law guides us by telling us, in terms of the frequency and the duration of rolling, not more than 7 minutes. So can the captain roll for 5 minutes? Yes, yes, he can. 4 minutes? Of course. 2 minutes? Yes. 30 seconds? Yes. As long as it's not more than 7 minutes. So now we know the length, not more than 7 minutes. When? Law guides us by telling us firstly, before the start of each subsequent innings, not the first innings of the game. This is now, let's say, day 1 of our test match. South Africa plays Australia. South Africa bats first on day 1. After South Africa gets dismissed for, let's say, 500 for the loss of 2 wickets, Australia will now go bat. There will then be a 10-minute change of innings, and the law allows for rolling between innings. So before the start of Australia's innings, the law allows for the pitch to be rolled. So practically, I'll use a test match as an example. So what will happen is, excuse me, as soon as South Africa is dismissed, let's say South Africa gets dismissed at 13:30, the umpires will then ask the captain of Australia if he or she wants rolling, and if yes, how long. And also at international level, there are usually more than one roller available. We will also ask the captain of Australia which roller to use. That information we will then relay to the fourth umpire, who in turn will relay it to the curator. Yeah, so that's practically what will happen. So firstly, in terms of after the game has started, the frequency before the start of each subsequent innings. So Australia, before the start of Australia's first innings, they can have rolling. Now Australia gets dismissed, South Africa will go bat in their second innings. Tema Bavuma will then have the option to get rolling before the start of South Africa's second innings. And then after South Africa gets dismissed, Pat Cummins will then have the option to have rolling before the start of Australia's second innings. Also, we allow rolling before the start of each subsequent day's play. Again, using the test match as an example, spanning over 5 days. So day 2, before the start of day 2's play, the law allows for rolling. So in terms of the timing permitted for this particular rolling before the start of each day's play, there is a window period for this rolling to take place. There's a 20-minute window period. So if play starts at 10 o'clock, the rolling before the start of each subsequent day's play will take place between 9:30 and the latest 9:50. So practically what will happen is, let's say South Africa is on the evening of day 1, when stumps is called, let's say South Africa is 400 for 2. So the next, so they will continue batting the next morning. So the fourth umpire will then go to Temba Bavuma the morning of day 2. This is now obviously before play starts. We'll then ask Temba, do you want the pitch to be rolled? If Temba say yes, we will ask Temba how long. Temba, let's say 7 minutes. And we will then also ask Temba which roller. And if there are 3 rollers available, we'll tell Temba, there are 3 rollers available. Do you want the heavy, the medium, or the hand roller? Let's say Temba chooses the heavy roller. we will then, or the fourth umpire will then relay this information to the curator. Then the fourth umpire needs to supervise this rolling. And because of this window period being in any time between 9:30 and 9:50, if there's a 10 o'clock start on day 2, umpire will then supervise this rolling. Same thing will apply. Whoever's batting on the morning of day 3, the fourth umpire will go to the batting captain and ask those same 3 questions about the length, about whether they want the rolling and which roller to use. When it comes to an interval, the following are classified according to the laws as scheduled intervals. Period between close of play on one day and the start of the next day's play. Let's say close of play is 10 o'clock on day 1, and play will start at 10 o'clock on day 2. That period between 5 o'clock on day 1 and 10 o'clock on day 2, that is seen as a scheduled interval. Interval between innings, scheduled interval. Your interval for meals, which is your tea and your lunch, scheduled interval. Interval for drinks as well, scheduled. And lastly, any other agreed interval. When it comes to the duration of the intervals, law don't tell us exactly how long your interval should be. This is where the governing body, they determine the length of these intervals. So in test match cricket, the length of our tea time is, our lunch is 40 minutes and our tea is 20 minutes. So all the law is telling us is, from the moment that you've called time to indicate that it is now lunch, whatever the length of your lunch should be, that length, that duration, you will call play on the resumption after that amount of time. I'll use an example to illustrate what the law is trying to tell us. Let's say 12 o'clock is our lunch in our test match. At exactly 12 o'clock, umpire calls over time and lunch. The first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. Another example, it's not always the case that you're in at exactly 12 o'clock. Many times you get to 12 o'clock and let's say you're midway through the over. Law tells us we need to complete the over, and we'll see it in the next law, where if you do get midway through the over and you get to your lunchtime of 12 o'clock, you first need to complete the over. So now we get to 12 o'clock, we're only halfway. We now need to complete the over, and let's say we get to 12:03 when we call over time and lunch. So with lunch being 40 minutes, we need to enjoy a 40-minute lunch break. So the first ball after lunch needs to be bowled exactly 40 minutes later from the moment you've called time. So you've called time at 12:03. That first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:43. According to the law, your interval between innings is 10 minutes. If a side gets dismissed at 11:10, at 11:20, the first ball needs to be bowled to the new batting side. The law brought in flexibility to the intervals. The law makes sure that they need to bring this flexibility into our intervals to maximize play during the day. And let's have a look at some of the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to the intervals to maximize play during the day. So let's first look at the interval between innings. So law tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less before close of play, it will then be close of play. Yes, if you do end a few minutes early on the day, you will not start earlier the next day. An example, close of play is 5 o'clock. At 16:53, South Africa gets dismissed. What will happen next? According to law, it will be stumps because this is now an innings ended. 10 minutes or less to close of play, it will now be stumps. Yes, we ended 7 minutes earlier, but the law tells us we we will not start 7 minutes earlier the following day. Again, let's look at the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to changing your time for your tea interval. So if an innings ends 30 minutes or less to tea, we will then take an early tea. We will then include or incorporate the change of innings into our tea interval. An example of this, let's say our tea is at 3 o'clock. At 14:35, Australia gets dismissed. So what happens next? Because this is less than 30 minutes to go to our scheduled tea interval of 3 o'clock. It's 14:35, so it's 25 minutes to go. We will now take an early tea. Tea will be from 14:35, and first ball after tea will be bowled at 14:55, and we will incorporate the change of innings into our interval. Again, flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our tea interval to maximize play. So if 30 minutes remains before the agreed time for tea and there's already an interval between innings in progress, you need to take that 10-minute change of innings interval, and then play will start. I'll use an example to illustrate what 6.2 is trying to tell us. Let's say our tea is at 3 o'clock. At 14:22, Sri Lanka gets dismissed. So this is now 38 minutes to go to tea. So we saw in 6.1, if an innings ends 30 minutes or less, we can take an early tea. But seeing that in my second example, with Sri Lanka being dismissed at 14:22, with 38 minutes to go till tea, so we cannot activate 6.1 because this is not 30 minutes or less. Now the law tells us we will now take a change of innings from 14:22 up until 14:32. First ball to, let's say, South Africa is the other side. So first ball to South Africa needs to be bowled at 14:32. We will then play from 14:32 up until 3 o'clock, when we will take our tea interval. Some more flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch or our tea interval. Again, trying to maximize play. And this flexibility is 9 wickets down. When the side is 9 wickets down and at either lunch or tea, but the side must be 9 wickets down. So if a side is 9 wickets down when we get to our, and I'll use lunch as an example, but the same principle will apply to tea. So our lunch being 12 o'clock. We get to 12 o'clock, final ball gets bowled, and the score reads South Africa 450 for 9. Do you take now lunch at 12 o'clock? No, the law tells us we will now not take lunch at 12 o'clock. Why? South Africa is 9 wickets down. So now the law instructs us we need to play an additional 30-minute maximum. We'll give the fielding side an opportunity to try to get that 10th wicket. But we can only play a max of 30 minutes. So 12 o'clock supposed to be our lunch. 12:30 is the max that we can play until. If, in example 1, the fielding side do take the 10th wicket, let's say at 12:10, we will then take lunch at 12:10. Lunch will then be 40 minutes, so from 12:10, and the first ball will be bowled after lunch at 12:50. Another example, so the fielding side struggle to get that final wicket. They don't get the final wicket, and we get to 12 o'clock and 12:30, and now it's the end of the over. So what happens now at 12:30? Now we must take lunch. The law only allows for a max of 30 minutes to see whether the fielding side can take it. They need to draw the line somewhere. Fielding side couldn't take it in the 30 minutes, so now we need to take lunch at 12:30. And lunch will be 40 minutes. First ball after lunch will be bowled at 13:10. Again, flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to the drinks interval. Again, to save time. So what did they do? They tell us that if a wicket falls or a batter retires within 5 minutes to your drinks interval, you'll take your drinks immediately. But it must be within 5 minutes. So let's, in our test match, our drinks is at 11 o'clock. At 10:56, a wicket falls. What happens next? We will take our drinks interval. Why? Because the law tell us to maximize play, they put flexibility in our drinks interval, that if a wicket falls within 5 minutes to drinks, we will take an early drink. So at 10:56, when that wicket fell, we will call the fourth umpire onto the field, and and the fielding side and the batters, we all can enjoy a drink. But it must be within 5 minutes. Another example, if a wicket should fall at 10:54, what happens next? In this instance, the next batter needs to come in. We cannot take an early drinks. Why? Because this is 6 minutes to go till our scheduled drinks interval. So next batter needs to come in. I mentioned earlier about completion of an over. And I said, if you do get to your lunch or your tea interval, and let's use our lunch as an example, if you do get to 12 o'clock and you're only midway through the over, do you take your lunch? No. The law tells us you need to complete the over first, and then you take your lunch interval. There is an exception. What is that exception? If a wicket falls within 3 minutes or less than 3 minutes to go to your next interval, the interval to be taken immediately. I'll use an example to illustrate 12.5.2. Our lunch being at 12 o'clock. At 11:58, South Africa lose, let's say, their fourth wicket. So what happens? So yes, it's 2 minutes to go to our scheduled lunch interval at 12 o'clock. So now law tells us, because a wicket fell with less than 3 minutes to go to lunch, we will take lunch immediately. So lunch will start from 11:58. When must the first ball after lunch be bowled? Exactly 40 minutes later, which is 12:38. Law 13 covers the innings, and the subsection that we're looking at here is the toss. So when it comes to the toss, let's first look at who needs to be present at the toss. Then we look at where the toss needs to take place. And then let's look at the timings for the toss. So firstly, who needs to be there? Both captains needs to be at the toss, and according to the law, at least one umpire, preferably both. But for whatever reason, there's only one available, no issue, the law allows for, but there needs to be at least one umpire. So now we know who needs to be there, both captains and at least one umpire. Where toss to take place? Law tells us on the field of play. So technically, according to the law, anywhere on the field of play, anywhere inside that boundary, the toss can take place. But we all know, customary, where does the toss take place? Right next to the match pitch. That is custom, and everyone follows it. But if you want to apply the law, anywhere on the field of play. Then, what time? What are the timings of the toss? There is a 15-minute window period for the toss to take place. That if we have a 10 o'clock start, the 15-minute window period for the toss to take place according to law is 9:30 to 9:45. Anywhere between 9:30 and 9:45, that is where the toss needs to take place. Then law tells us again, as soon as the toss is completed, the captain winning it needs to notify the opposing captain immediately whether he or she is going to bat or bowl. And once notified, that decision then cannot be changed. In terms of the follow-on, in a 2 innings match of 5 days or more, for example, our test match, the follow-on lead needs to be at least 200 runs. And if the lead is 200 runs, the captain has the option of asking the other side to follow on. The option is on the table. They don't have to exercise the option. They can, if the lead is at least 200 runs, they can exercise it. If they decide not to, it's the captain's prerogative, they can then decide to go back again. That is in matches of 5 days or more. We all know that not all games spans over 5 days like in test match cricket. So law guides us by telling us if your match is a 3 or 4 day game, that minimum lead now is not 200 anymore. It is now 150. If you do have a 2-day match, that innings is the lead needs to be 100 to enforce the follow on. And if you do play a 2 innings match, and that 2 innings match spans just over 1 day, then the lead needs to be 75 runs to enforce the follow on. So again, if you do decide to enforce the follow on, you need to notify your opposing captain that you want them to follow on or you don't want them to follow on. And once the decision has been made, then cannot be changed. When the first day's play is lost, and the emphasis here on it must be the first day's play is lost. No play to take place on day number 1. And if that is the case, then in terms on the follow-on what the minimum lead should be for the follow-on, you'll then look at the remaining days in your match and apply the appropriate minimum lead. I'll use an example to illustrate this. Our test match. So test match between South Africa and let's say Bangladesh. On day 1, not a single ball gets bowled. First ball of the test match get bowled on day number 2. So now the law tells us because the whole of the first day's play was lost, and there's now only 4 days remaining in our test match. Now, in terms of what the minimum lead should be for the follow-on, we now look at, if I go to the previous slide, in a 3 or 4 day game, the minimum lead now needs to be 150. So in our test match, because there's only 4 days left, because the whole of the first day's rain out, a minimum now lead needs to be 150. But again, emphasis on it needs to be the first day's play lost. If another example, South Africa, Bangladesh, play start on time on day 1. Day 1, South Africa wins the toss, let's say batting, play, we get a full day, play starts. Day 2, not a single ball gets bowled. Whole of day 2 rain out. We then start again on day 3. So how do you now handle this? This, in terms of what the minimum lead for the follow-on is, the minimum lead will stay 200. Why? You can only activate this clause if no play takes place on the first day. Because in my second example, in this test match, play started on time on day 1. We had a full day. We had play during day 1. Yes, day 2 was rain out. But because it was not the first day's play that was rain out, the lead will stay in terms of the follow-on 200 runs. In terms of a declaration, captain of the batting side can declare an innings whenever the ball is dead during that innings. In terms of the forfeiture of an innings, captain to forfeit either of the side innings before the start of that innings. And captain to notify the opposing captain whether they're declaring or forfeiting their innings, and once notified, the decision then cannot be changed. Next, number of balls. current law allows for 6 balls per over. When do the overs start? The overs start as soon as the bowler gives his or her first step. That's when the over starts. That's when the ball becomes alive. If the bowler don't have a run-up, as soon as the back foot lands for that first delivery, that is when the over starts. Next law, which cover boundaries. If possible, boundary to be marked by a continuous white line or by an object in contact with the ground like a rope or those Toblerones. Preferably, but we all know it's not always possible. So if the boundary is marked by a white line, the edge of the line nearest to the pitch shall be the boundary. We'll see in the next slide what this law is trying to tell us. I mentioned earlier, it's not always possible for the boundary to be marked by a rope or a white line. The law allows for flags, posts, boards. I've seen bricks, I've seen those picket fences. The law allows for that. And if you are going to use those objects, the law tells us they are merely there to highlight the position of the line marked on the ground and must be placed beyond the boundary and is not seen as the boundary itself. Here's an example. When it comes to the boundaries, when it comes to a rope, the inside edge, that is where the boundary is. That's for a rope. Picket fence, inside edge. A rope, inside edge, post, flags. That's where the boundaries are. Dead ball. We're just going to look at 3 instances where the ball automatically becomes dead. When it finally settles in either the hands of the keeper or the bowler, the ball automatically becomes dead. When a boundary is scored, ball automatically becomes dead. And lastly, when a batter is dismissed, the ball automatically becomes dead. There are 5 more instances. I'm not the way for level 1. We didn't cover all 8 of them. When the ball automatically becomes dead, there's also instances where the umpire needs to call and signal dead ball. There are 14 subsections under that. But under in our level 1 course, we didn't cover everything. When we get to our level 2 and 3 courses, we're going to go into more detail. When it comes to no ball, we firstly start with the feet. And when it comes to the feet, we need to look at the front foot and the back foot separately. They have different set of laws for them. Let's first start with the back foot. The law tells us when we look at the back foot must land within and it should not be touching the return crease. When it comes to the front foot must land with some part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, and they need to be behind the popping crease or on the same side of the imaginary line joining the 2 middle stumps. If that is not the case, umpire needs to call and signal no ball. Let's look at a few pictures to see exactly how the law works. When it comes to the front foot, this is the right arm bowler bowling over the wicket. Let's look at the front foot first. Which crease goes with the front foot? The popping crease. What is the question that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to the popping crease? Is there any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, in this picture. So we're happy with the front foot. Let's look at the back foot. Is there any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes, there is. That's why this will be a no ball, back foot touching the return crease. Let's start with the front foot. Any part of the front foot grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, we're happy with the front foot. Back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? No, it's not. Yes, so in this case, the back foot the heel is raised and it's hovering over the return crease, but it's not touching the return crease. That is why this is a fair delivery. This is left arm bowling round the wicket. So let's look at the front foot. Is there any part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is. So we're happy with the front foot. Again, when it comes to the front foot, the only crease that you need to look at is the popping crease. When it comes to the back foot, only crease you need to look at is the return crease. So front foot, we're happy. There's a big portion of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease. Front foot, back foot. Is the back foot touching the return crease? No, it's not. That's why this is a fair delivery. Again, left arm bowling around the wicket. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No. Yes, there's a big part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease, so we're happy with the front foot. The back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes, it is. That's why this is a no ball. Back foot touching the return crease? No. Happy back foot. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is a small portion behind the back edge, so we're happy. This is a fair delivery. Back foot not touching the return crease? Happy. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, it's not. That's why this is a no ball. Back foot we're happy with, not touching the return crease. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, it's not. That's why this is a no ball. Before I go on to the next slide, I want to emphasize that we need to look, when looking at the back foot or front foot, but in this case, the front foot, we need to look at first landing. If there's any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised, upon first landing behind the back edge of the popping crease, it will be a fair delivery. Even if that front foot do slide and end up here, it will still be a fair delivery. I'll show you an example to illustrate what I'm trying to tell you. Let's say this is where the front foot landed. So upon first landing, there was a part of the front foot grounded behind the back edge of the popping crease. So this is your judgment point where you need to decide whether no ball or not. And because there is a part of the back foot, the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease, this is a fair delivery. So you look at where that first landing. Don't look at where it ends up, because sometimes you do find that front foot sliding. So if the front foot slides and ends up here, but if this was the first landing and it ends up here, it's still a fair delivery. So you look at first landing and not where it ends up. Back foot, we're happy, not touching the return crease. Front foot, any part of the front foot grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is a small part behind the back edge, so we're happy this is a fair delivery. Back foot, we're happy, not touching the return crease. Front foot, any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, there's not. That's why this is a no ball. Earlier I mentioned that the front foot must be behind the back edge of the popping crease. Also, the front foot should not be over the imaginary line going from middle stump to middle stump. So if you can visualize this, this is a left arm bowler bowling over the wicket. Look where that front foot is landing. It's landing on left arm over, right on the other side of the imaginary line from middle stump to middle stump. According to the law, this is a no ball. What happens if a ball bounces more than once or rolls along the ground? If the ball gets bowled and the ball bounces more than once before reaching the popping crease, umpire needs to call and signal no ball. Either umpire to call it, although the striker's end umpire is in the best position because he or she has a side-on view. They can much easier see whether the ball bounced more than once before reaching the popping crease. So if it bounces a second time before reaching the popping crease, no ball. Or If a ball that gets delivered rolls along the ground before reaching the popping crease, call and signal no ball. Or the ball gets delivered, it pitches wholly or partially off the pitch before reaching the line of the striker's wicket, call and signal no ball. When it comes to wide ball and the calling and signaling of wide, umpire needs to only call and signal wide ball as soon as the ball passes the striker's wicket. Don't be in a hurry to call wide. Even if the ball is wide, the batter might play a late cut shot, and if you're too early, you can have some egg on your face if you call wide too early. So wait until the ball passes the striker's wicket before calling and signaling wide. So in terms of calling and signaling wide, you delay it until it passes the striker's wicket. But technically, according to the law, the ball is considered wide from the instant that the bowler entered his or her delivery stride, i.e., when that back foot lands. That's when the ball is technically wide already, but only call and signal it once it passes the striker's wicket. Wide do not count as one of the valid balls of the over. How can you be dismissed of a wide? In total, there are nine mode of dismissals. You can only be dismissed for them of a wide. What are they? Hit wicket, obstructing the field, run out, and lastly, stumped. These are the only 4 modes of dismissals, if a wide is called, that a batter can be dismissed. When it comes to fielders' absence, substitute fielders, umpires to allow a substitute fielder if the umpire is happy that the fielder became injured or ill and that this injury or illness happened during the match. For wholly acceptable reasons, an umpire can also allow a substitute fielder. If you do allow a substitute fielder, that substitute fielder not allowed to bowl, not allowed to bat, cannot be captain, but can be wicketkeeper, but needs consent of the umpires. Fielder absent or leaving the field of play. If a fielder fails to take the field at the start of the match or leaves the field during the match, umpires needs to be informed of the reason for this absence. As soon as before they leave the field, they need to tell the umpire, I'm leaving the field, and they need to tell you why they're leaving the field. Why is this important? You need to write down in your notebook the time that the fielder left the field of play. We'll now see why that is important. Also, before that injured fielder, after now getting treatment, comes back onto the field of play, they need the consent of either of the umpires. Why is that consent important? We'll see in point 3. That consent is important. Why you need to know when they're back? Because you need to write down the time when they come back. You need to see exactly how long they were off the field of play. So why is it important that we need to know how long they were off? We need to know this because as soon as that player returns after receiving treatment, that injured fielder needs to wait for that same amount of time that he or she was off the field before they can bowl again, up to a max of 90 minutes. If I can just use the round numbers to give you a quick scenario. Let's say injured fielder comes to you at 10:30 and saying, umpire, I've injured my hamstring. May I please go off to get some treatment? Umpire will allow then a substitute. You'll then, in your notebook, write down the name of the fielder, the time the fielder left, 10:30, and the reason, hamstring. When the fielder comes back, let's say at 11 o'clock, fielder standing on the boundary will wave to you, umpire, I want to come back. You'll give permission. You'll take out your notebook, write down fielder's back, 11 o'clock. You then need to calculate how long the fielder was off. Left at 10:30, back at 11, that's 30 minutes. You will now tell the injured fielder you're off for 30 minutes. So you need to wait half an hour before you can bowl. So at 11:30, you can bowl again. You will also relay that message to the fielding captain. If the player leaves the field before having served all his or her penalty time don't disappear. Gets carried forward into the next day, into the next innings, not the next match, but it doesn't disappear. Lots of players think the next day it disappears. It doesn't. It gets carried over into the next day and the next innings. You sometimes find same player going off multiple times. Every time they go off, you will add that penalty time that they need to serve to any outstanding penalty time. Scheduled intervals like your lunch, your tea, your drinks, change of innings, they don't get added to any penalty time that a player owes, or you cannot subtract the lunch, tea, or drinks or change of innings from any penalty time that a player might owe us. In terms of appeals and the timing of the appeals, for appeal to be valid, it must be made before the bowler begins his or her run-up and before time has been called. So you can see there is quite a lengthy window period for that appeal to be still valid. So that window period for that in terms of the appeal to be valid is it only closes once the bowler begins his or her run-up to bowl the next ball and before time has been called. The law goes on further by telling us even the call of over does not invalidate an appeal as long as it's made before the bowler take his or her first step to bowl the next over, and also provided time has not been called. We're almost done. We're now starting with the modes of dismissals. There are a few modes of dismissals that we're covering. We're starting with the court law. I'm going to play your video.
Fair catch. A catch shall be considered fair if the ball is held in a fielder's hand, hugged to the body of the catcher, or accidentally lodges in his or her clothing, helmet, or protective equipment. But of course, this being cricket, it isn't always that simple. If a fielder deliberately uses an item of clothing to try to catch the ball, it is not out, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. However, the ball can be caught after it has deflected off the other batsman, an umpire, another fielder, including off a helmet being worn, or even if it lodges in a fielder's helmet. Perhaps the main criterion for a catch to be considered fair is that the ball must not touch the ground before being caught. Here, for example, the ball does not touch the ground even though the hand holding it does so in effecting the catch. This is a fair catch. And then there is the question of catches near the boundary. This is such an interesting subject that we've given it a film all of its own. To catch up on everything to do with catching, simply refer to Law 33 in the Blue Book.
When a striker is dismissed court, no runs to be scored. Even if they ran 3 while the ball is in the air, no runs to be scored. Court to take precedence. Court is number 2. Who is number 1? Who is boss? When it comes to mode of dismissals, bowled is always boss. So if a batter is out on more than the same ball, more than one mode of dismissal, boss is always 1. Court is number 2. Next mode of dismissal is leg before wicket. Let's look at a video.
Leg before wicket. LBW. LBW is a little like the offside rule in football. Many people claim to know it, but how many people really do? Our handy checklist means that whether you find yourself umpiring an international test match or the kids on the beach, your reputation for fairness will remain intact. There are 5 basic criteria to consider. The batsman is out, leg before wicket, if 1. The bowler bowls a ball that isn't a no ball, unlike this poor fellow. 2. The ball, if it is not intercepted on the full, pitches in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the batsman's wicket. It cannot be out if the ball pitches outside the line of the leg stump. 3. The ball hits the batsman either full pitch or after pitching and before he hits it with his bat. 4. This is where it gets a bit more complicated. If the batsman was making a genuine attempt to play the ball, the point of impact must be between wicket and wicket for LBW to be an option. However, if the batsman has made no genuine attempt to play the ball, the contact must either be between wicket and wicket or outside the line of the off stump. 5. This is the crucial part. But for the interception by the batsman, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps and dislodge the bails. Any questions? Just refer to Law 36 in the Blue Book.
So let's just recap the points that you need to consider when there is an LBW appeal. And these are the points according to law that you need to consider. Firstly, ball not to be a no ball. If not intercepted on the full, the ball needs to pitch in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the wicket. Thirdly, should not have touched the bat first of the batter. If it touched the bat first, can never be out LBW. But if it touched the pad first and then the bat, then you can consider the LBW. But there are other points that we also need to consider. Next, striker intercept the ball with any part of his or her person. When it comes to the point of impact, the law wants the point of impact to be between wicket and wicket. There's one but, and that but is if there's been no genuine attempt to play at the ball with the bat by the striker. If that is the case, the impact then needs to be between wicket or on the offside of the wicket. And then lastly, would have gone on to hit the wicket. So these are the 5 points according to law that you need to consider when there's an LBW appeal. Yes, it's a split second. These 5 points go split of a second go through your mind, but you need to consider these 5 points before making an LBW decision. There are also other factors that you need to consider. And what are those other factors? We're going to get to the next few slides, and we're going to see there are other factors that we need to consider. Let's just look at this slide first. This is a right-handed batter. Look where the ball is pitching. This ball is pitching outside leg stump. That's why a batter can never be out if a ball pitches outside leg stump. Let's look at this. Where did the ball pitch? It either needs to pitch in line or it needs to pitch outside the off stump. This ball pitched in line. Where was the impact? The impact needs to be between wicket and wicket if the batter plays a shot. So yes, we're happy with the impact. Then next, we need to ask ourselves, would this have gone on to hit the stumps? If your answer to this question is yes, give the batter out. If no, not out. Where did it pitch? It either needs to pitch between wicket and wicket or on the offside. It pitched outside off, so we're happy with where it pitched. Let's look at the impact. The law wants the impact to be, if the batter played a shot, to be between wicket and wicket. Where is this impact? It's not between wicket and wicket. That's why this impact is outside off or outside the line. Playing a shot, that's why this can never be out LBW. Where did it pitch? Pitch on the offside. Where was the impact? The impact was not between wicket and wicket. But, remember I said there was a but. If you don't play a shot, you can consider if the impact is outside off. But, you know, the very last point that you need to consider when looking at an LBW, would the ball have gone on to hit the stumps? If you're looking at this and in your opinion this would have gone on to hit the stumps, give the batter out. If not, not out. Where did it pitch? Between wicket and wicket. Where was the impact between wicket and wicket? Would it have gone on to hit the stumps? If yes, give the batter out. If you don't think it was going on to hit, not out. Earlier I mentioned, yes, there are 5 points in the law that you need to consider, but there's also other factors that you also need to take into account when looking at an LBW. Look at where this ball pitched. And if I can visualize this, I think this is a left-arm bowler bowling over the wicket. So where did it pitch? It pitched in line. So we were happy with where it pitched. Where was the impact? The impact was also in line. But if you look at the trajectory of the ball, batter getting a stride in, this ball still needs to travel about 1.5, 1.6 meters. I think this ball is missing leg stump. So the point I'm trying to make is you also need, missing off stump. You also need to take into account other factors when making your LBW decision. Angles, traveling distance, height, other factors that you take into account. Similarly with this one, where did it pitch? Outside off, we're happy with where it pitched. Where was the impact between wicket and wicket? So we're happy with the impact. Would this have gone on to hit the stumps? I don't think so. Why? Batter plays forward, ball probably needs to travel another 1.5 meters. This angle, I think, is taking it past leg stump. Similarly with this, look where it hits. Yes, it is between wicket and wicket, but look how high it is. So I think this is going over the top. Second last law that we're looking at is stumped. Let's look at the video.
Stumped. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicket-keeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps off any part of the wicket-keeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
The last law that I'm covering before handing back to Tom is the timeout law. So after the fall of the wicket, or if a batter retires, the law wants the incoming batter, unless you've called time, incoming batter needs to be ready to receive the ball, or the other batter needs to be ready to receive the ball within 3 minutes of the dismissal or the retirement. Again, this is according to law. They need to be there to be ready to receive the ball within 3 minutes. And if this requirement not met and there is an appeal, incoming batter to be given out, timed out. Tom, thank you so much. That's all I'm covering this evening. Handing back to you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. And just want to reiterate the importance of revision of level 1 and revision of level 2, which Abdullah will take us through on Thursday. Myself and Abdullah have been presenting level 1, 2, and 3 courses over the last 8 to 10 years now. And every single course that we present, we learn something new. So you never know everything, and you are never too old to learn something new. So please don't think that this is a waste of time going through level 1 and level 2 material. I hope that you will all have a light bulb moment going through level 1 and level 2 material that you had not figured out before, and you will know it going forward, which will stand you in good stead for level 3 and also for all your matches on field. So now we are going into our question and answer session, and I'm going to start by playing the video of the Jadeja and Sai catch, which we spoke about during the presentation with Aludin Palika. He referred to it, and it was similar to one of our scenarios, but it's always good to review a recent scenario and apply the new ICC playing condition on boundary catches to this one. So I'm just going to share my screen with all of you, and we're going to talk through the Jadeja Sai relay catch on the boundary. So I'll play it again with the volume off, and I'll talk you through it. Ball is hit up in the air to deep backward square leg, where Jadeja takes the catch inside the field of play. Realizing that he's going to fall outside, he throws the ball up, and Sai completes the catch. When Sai completed the catch, you would have noticed that Jadeja is outside the field of play. Is that a problem with the new ICC playing condition relating to boundary catches? No, it is not a problem. Why? Because Jadeja has not made contact with the ball while he was outside of the field of play. He made contact, first and last contact for Jadeja was while he was inside the field of play. So when he goes outside the field of play, he can stay there for as long as he wants, as long as the fielder who completes the catch, Sai, does not then also obviously go over the boundary with the ball in hand. Okay, so pretty straightforward. It was a catch with the old laws, and it's still a catch with the new playing condition. Why? Because Jadeja was inside the field of play when he made his first and final contact with the ball, and he does not make any contact with the ball while he's outside the field of play. If he had made a second contact with the ball outside of the field of play, then he would have had to have jumped from outside, tapped it inside, and landed inside. Okay, but because he did not touch the ball while he was outside the field of play, he can remain outside the field of play while his colleague is completing the catch. I hope that clears up all our questions on the boundary catches. I do see that there were some questions put in the chat box while we were going through the boundary catching presentation, but I feel and I hope that we have covered everything and everyone has understood. If there is something that somebody still wants to go over in terms of boundary catching, please put your hand up now and we will take your question once we've gone through the rest of the questions and comments in the chat box. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your attendance and your interaction. We will reconvene same time, same place, same meeting link on Thursday, 6 p.m. South African time. And we will be looking, apart from going through level 2 revision, we will also be looking at some new playing conditions that are effective in June 2025. So something new and exciting for all of you to look out for. Thank you once again for your attendance and interaction. We will meet again on Thursday night. Have a good day further. Thank you and goodbye.